Hi there and welcome back to my channel. It's been a little while since I've done a video. Things have been busy as we've been sort of getting towards the summer, but I had some time today and I thought I would jump on and do a video as I sat down to journal. And today when I sat down, I was reflecting on a service we did at church last week where we were thinking about creation care, and it tied in a little bit with some work I've been doing with my diocese job, where we've been thinking about creation tide and creating resources, and as part of that I've been doing some research onto the theology of creation care, which I found quite interesting. So I started off by writing down some of those thoughts and feelings, prayers, confessions, thinking about creation and what we are doing to creation. And I found it really interesting doing some research into the theology. I watched a brilliant webinar about it, which I'll pop in a link below if you're interested. And one of the things that really stood out from the webinar was the lady who was doing it said part of creation care is about following the command of loving our neighbours. And as we know, our neighbours aren't just the people that we live next door to, they're everybody. And at the moment, our neighbours are suffering as a result of climate crisis. We're seeing that in Greece at the moment, where there's fires and people have been evacuated. And as part of loving them, we have to be sacrificial, and sometimes that means sacrificing our comfort and our convenience to help heal the planet. And that really struck a chord with me when I was thinking about creation, and that, you know, sometimes we do jump in the car because it's easier, but actually we need to be thinking about those small changes that we can make. And the other thing that I think really stood out to me was that idea, we often think about creation care just thinking about Genesis and that God created the earth, but actually when we think about what Jesus did on the cross, we also think about the fact that Jesus came to redeem all creation, not just us humans, but all creation. And that as a result of the fall, there was kind of discord between us and God, between us and other humans, between us and ourselves, but also between us and creation, which is what we see now in the way that we often treat creation as if it's a commodity to be used rather than something to cherish and look after. So those were my thoughts as I was creating this page. A little bit heavy, not a particularly fun page to do, but I felt it was a really necessary one for me to do and for me to think about. And you can see now I have pulled out some magazine images, mainly from National Trust magazines, of nature, animals, trees, things like that, and I'm just popping them on the page, covering over some of that text that I've already put there, but also leaving a few spaces as well. I don't want to cover the entire page with images, but I've covered most of it up, just leaving a few blank spaces in between. And so once I'd covered the page, I left it to dry, and then I did also add a little bit of napkin as well, which you'll see in a moment. I really like adding napkins to pages. It gives a bit of a textured, a different look, so I did some of those. And then I grabbed a wax candle, and this is the fun bit. You need to make sure your page is completely dry before you do this, otherwise, as you can see at the bottom, it might catch and tear. But then you just go over the page with your wax candle, just making marks, squiggles, and you can't particularly see it on the page, but when we get to the next bit, you'll see the magic happen. So I've got some acrylic inks. I've got Payne's Grey, Antelope Brown, which has a gorgeous greeny colour, and sepia, and I'm added quite a lot of water to them to dilute them, and then I'm just adding it to the page, covering it all. And as I'm doing this is where I was reflecting a bit more about what we as humans are doing to the planet, to our this place that we call home, and how we're spoiling it in lots of different ways. We are causing harm to the planet. But the good news is, it's not hopeless. And the reason I added that wax to the page is because it resists the ink, and you can still underneath see the creation that is there. And I think for me that just helped me reflect a little bit on how we still have hope. It can feel really hopeless, and I think if you listen to the news and things, you can end up feeling a little bit overwhelmed by it, and it can feel like there is no hope at all. But actually, as a Christian, as Christians, we know that there is hope in Jesus. There is hope, and there is hope for our climate. There is hope for our planet just as much as there is for us, because like I said earlier, when Jesus died and rose again, that was to redeem us, and it wasn't just to redeem us as humans, but everything in creation. And yeah, I think that for me is kind of where I was sitting with this then, that actually it's not hopeless. There is hope. We can all make small changes that can make a difference, and it can maybe feel like it doesn't make a difference, but it really does. If everybody made small changes, we would see a huge change overall. And ultimately, God reigns over it. So you can see that I'd added some gold rings, and that for me was to just represent that no matter what's going on, God still sits on the throne and reigns over everything, creation, everything, and that ultimately God is in charge, and that we might think we are, but actually God is in control, and that again gives us hope. So I just finished off with some Neocolours, just adding a little bit more texture to the page. I added the words creation groans, because that's what I really feel creation is doing at the moment. It's crying out to us, it's groaning, and it was just a reminder to me that I have a responsibility to take care of creation as much as anybody else. And there we have it. Maybe not the most beautiful page, or the most uplifting of pages, but actually a really important one, I feel, especially at the moment. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and maybe it'll inspire you to create your own page thinking about climate care, creation care, and if it does, I'd love to see that in the comments. Send me a link, and until next time, have a great week. Goodbye.